Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the In the Mixer podcast, our first transfer episode. Next season, we're going to be going into Premier League territory with our show, so we've decided to give you some sort of a preview of the season that's going to be coming up. We'll have our predictions of where teams are going to finish and such, but we're more focused on the transfers, seeing as we are in the height of the transfer window. Not really much else football's going on. So the way this episode is going to go out, we're going to talk about some of the deals that have happened so far, and as the weeks go on, the deals that will be happening. We're going to go through some rumours as well that we quite enjoy, and over the course of the next 4 shows or so, before the season starts, we will have gone through every team and what we think of what they're doing in terms of the transfer market. So, before we move on, I'd like to introduce the 2 men that will be joining me for this in-depth conversation. We've got Michael and Elias. Say hello, gentlemen.
Hi.
Yeah.
Excellent. I just realised, have I got more Essex on that intro?
Yes.
Probably.
I don't know why. I apologise.
You've spent some time away from us, which means that your accent does grow slightly stronger.
Yeah. I become northern when I'm near Michael, which is not going to be good if I'm going to stay with him for like a week.
Yeah. He's going to come back full Yorkshire. I can't wait.
More about their personal ventures later. But we will move on, because we've got some big transfers to talk about. I think we'll go through the biggest ones that have happened so far. So, have there been any transfers that have specifically tickled your
Fancy?
transfer? Well, I was going to say transferometer.
You don't tickle that. It increases gradually when you tickle other things.
Okay.
Oh, no. In the transfer possible.
Someone save us. Someone save us, please.
Do you mean transfers worldwide or...
anything that's, that you've enjoyed?
I'm pretty sure you put this segment in just for me, so I'm gonna first off go with the transfer of Basel's Brielle Mbolo to FC Schalke 04, the 14th richest team in the world and the 3rd biggest team in the Bundesliga.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's a brilliant signing for all parties involved. Basel get the money, Schalke get the player, and Mbolo gets incredible facilities, training, development, nurturing, food, place, and
Beer.
time. Beer. That's about all I can say.
So are you saying it's a brilliant signing?
Oh!
I want to leave.
Yeah. I'm sure we'll embolish the opportunity. No,
Yes.
doesn't work.
No,
It's not
no,
quite the
it
same.
isn't.
No.
Soldier boy, tell 'em, Bolo. I don't know. Right. Elias, anything that is, I suppose, as a Chelsea fan, is anything, or is it anywhere else in the whole football universe that has excited you personally?
Ganso to Sevilla, I think.
Simple as that.
Yes.
Any particular reason why? I suppose he's been
It's been rumoured
touted for a while. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just going to be interesting to see how it does in arguably the biggest league in the world, or the most competitive, or whatever you want to call it. And also Sevilla, probably the 4th best team in Spain, and also doing well at the Europa League level, of course. And they're going to play in the Champions League this season, aren't they? Because they won Europa League.
Didn't they last season finish 3rd in the group?
Oh yeah, they did. Okay, yeah, that's
So if you are a gambling man, Sevilla to finish 3rd is odds. I don't have the odds. Just put it on whatever. You'll win £1 million.
Okay.
I had a personal one. Renato Sanchez to Bayern Munich. I didn't actually.
Are you really going to continue your... I'm
No,
going to say
no.
arse-licking of Portugal into the... past the Euros?
I mean, I'm not a doctor, and I don't really know where the arse of Portugal is located. But Renato Sanchez, I've got to say personally, I actually didn't rate him particularly. But seeing him at the Euros, I'm actually really intrigued to see how he's going to do at a big club like Bayern Munich, and especially how much game time he's actually going to get. Because when you look at how many midfielders Bayern have, it's actually quite intimidating, I think, for a young player to go in there, especially in his position, and try and shine. So I think it's going to be very interesting. He may be loaned out. I don't know if there's been any rumours about that, but that seems like it could happen possibly. Maybe not now, maybe in January or something. But yeah, I'm actually very intrigued by that signing. So as this is a Premier League podcast, even though we haven't actually talked about any Premier League football as of yet on this podcast. We'll go through our favourite Premier League signings of the window so far. There's been quite a few big ones, hasn't there, gentlemen? So we've got I've got a couple here. The most expensive transfer of the window so far in the Premier League, is it? I think it's Xhaka, right? Is Xhaka the most expensive one so far in the Premier League?
Xhaka or Batshuayi, I don't know.
I think they're both tight. I've got the fees here as Xhaka 34 and Batshuayi 33.2, so it's pretty tight.
I'll say I think the Xhaka one is a little bit more expensive. I thought it was like 38. So,
But I wanted for those sort of teams in and around that sort of top 4 position. You've obviously got Arsenal getting Granit Xhaka. You've got Chelsea getting N'Golo Kante now, and then you've got Wanyama to Spurs. All quite similar midfielders in the fact that they will be brought in more for their defensive play. I wanted to throw in considering these teams will probably be around each other next season. I wanted to have a little discussion on who you think has got the best deal there out of those 3 players in terms of their squad.
Like, I haven't seen Xhaka play that much recently. He didn't really look very convincing at the Euros. Of course, Switzerland didn't do the best. Kante, of course, played decently for France in the Euros and had a great season last season. I'm not sure about Xhaka's, what's it called, the numbers for last season. And Wanyama, he's a solid defender, well, solid defensive midfielder, but not sure if he can break into that Tottenham team as it is now. I'm not sure.
Well, that was yeah. I mean, that was my problem with the Wanyama signing. I'm not sure he's particularly an improvement on Eric Dyer in that position.
It's not a first team signing at all. Like, no, I don't think. Like, yeah, for players to be a first team signing these days, they have to be like an outright superstar compared to the rest of the squad. And it's almost like he just like. I don't want to say it, but like slots onto the bench as cover. It's
You think the way Pochettino's managed his team though that will probably be rotational, and I'm not 100% sure Wanyama's got the ability to play in the Champions League or against the top teams.
He does have experience though.
Of course, he has experience.
So, like,
with Inter. Was it Inter he played?
And Celtic.
Helsingborg in Sweden is where he came from.
Wow, look at the knowledge.
I've seen him play when he was 17.
Elias is the hipster.
Yeah, man.
All these players that have come over from Sweden. No, I just like... I don't know. He does have experience, which I think is probably why Poch probably likes him, because like, if you are going to have a player that's going to be used rotationally, you want him to go into a team instantly and be able to gel with it, his experience will come into play. And
it was a steal at 11 million, of course.
Yeah, like 11 million these days isn't a lot, especially for a defensive midfielder where the value of like a midfielder like him is like it's increasing so much in football these days with how it's being played. So
the only problem I had with it is it doesn't really show much ambition. When you compare that to the Kante and Xhaka signings, they really do scream at you like top quality signings. And I think out of these 3 players, personally, I think Chelsea's probably got the best player in terms of their squad, because I don't particularly think Xhaka is necessarily needed at Arsenal. I think they've got a lot of players that play in that position. With Chelsea, you've got Matic, obviously, but after his mediocre season last season, I think it's fair to say, I think he's pretty much going to be a starter in that team. And after a great season at Leicester, arguably, you could say he's just had one proven season in the Premier League, but I think that is going to be huge for Chelsea there, to be honest.
Yeah, and the thing I like about that signing is that that's going to create a lot of space for Fabregas, possibly playing further up the field, maybe behind the strikers, as he did a few times last season. But one thing I can see coming from that is Oscar not having a place in the team anymore.
Yeah.
Which he hasn't really had any breakout seasons in Chelsea. He had that really good first season when he scored those 2 goals against Juventus and the Premier League in the Champions League 2012, I think he was signed. And he hasn't really bloomed out. He's still young. He's still 23, I think, and he's still got a lot of time in his career. But I don't know if he's the player that Chelsea need and have any place for him. So.
Yeah. I mean, you're probably going to be. We've sort of spoken about this before in private. I think we all pretty much are under the impression Chelsea are going to have a huge overhaul this summer. And probably by next season they'll have a completely different 11, arguably. But going on more about the Xhaka sign, I don't think he particularly plays in holding midfield, like in that position where they have Coquelin playing, or El Neni. I actually really like El Neni actually as a holding midfielder, but I think they probably needed that holding midfielder role to be filled more than the role just beside it, which will be filled by Wilshere or Cazorla or Ramsey or someone like that. I think Arsenal, it's very much like it's like it's just like a publicity signing, kind of, if that makes sense. I'm not saying he's not needed, and he's not really a world-renowned name, but I think Xhaka is kind of that nice footballer who likes a pass, and I don't particularly think
it's an Arsenal
punch
it's a very
people.
Arsenal signing.
I don't think it's a signing that's going to massively improve their squad, and I really like Xhaka, but I don't actually think he's a huge improvement on Ramsey, maybe Cazorla. But I suppose Cazorla's getting a bit old now, so perhaps that's the reasoning behind it. And Jack Wilshere obviously isn't always fit, but yeah.
And like Arteta retired. I know he wasn't playing anyway, but it's like more of those positions like being filled. Like they lost Flamini as well and Rosicky, didn't they? They both released. So it's like I know it's only one big player that they've replaced him with, but it's still like filling out the positions almost.
Mm. And we'll see how much money they have to spend for the rest of this window, but I think that central defensive midfield is a position that needs strengthening more than the deep line playmakery role that Xhaka gives Arsenal. But like I said, he's a very good player, and I think he probably will do well at Arsenal. It's just whether that's the signing they needed. I think whether it's one Wenger wanted rather than what he needed.
I think he'll be a good signing in that he'll be good in the Arsenal team, but I don't think he'll ever shine particularly. Like, he'll never be he'll never be. Oh, Granit Xhaka was by far the most influential player in Arsenal winning that game, but yeah, he'll certainly contribute to Arsenal's points tally over the season.
So personally, out of those three, I think Kante's probably the best signing.
Without a doubt, I think Kante's the best signing of what he's shown over the past calendar year and a bit. So.
It's just the way it is, though. I mean, he could completely flop. We don't know.
We were discussing it in the Euro, saying one player that's going to get his big move and then flop. It could well be Kante.
But the thing with Kante is, obviously, he didn't even play in the final, and we were speaking in that podcast about how perhaps France would have done better if he played. But obviously, it's all hindsight and on. A couple more the big signings I've looked at here. We'll go to the Premier League champions. It's only fitting. Ahmed Musa of I believe it's CSKA Moscow. I've always said CSKA Moscow, but apparently it's CSKA Moscow. Undisclosed, approximately about £15 million. This one's brought out to me because he was linked with Manchester United quite heavily in January.
He's been sort of linked around the Premier League for a number of years, I think.
Well, I think it shows a bit of intent by Leicester City. I think it's probably the most high-profile signing that they've made so far. And then you look at the signs of Mahrez and Kante they've made in the last 2 years. People are now taking notice of these more unknown. I don't want to say unknown, but I'm going to because I'm awful and not a thesaurus. But these more unknown commodities. And I think this could be a really interesting signing. And I don't know much about Musa. I know he's fast. But
I think he's quite a flexible player. Like I think that.
I think he plays more wide. I was going to compare him to Vardy, but I think he's more of a wide man.
See, I think I'm not too sure because I haven't got a massive amount of knowledge on the Russian league, but I'm pretty sure he started his career playing out wide and then has become more of a centre, like a central. Like I won't say centre forward kind of, but like not. I don't want to say striker because I can't imagine a player it's like a small and fast player becoming an out and out striker.
Well, I wouldn't imagine they'd sign him if he was a striker because obviously they've got Okazaki, Ochoa, and of course the main man Jamie Vardy.
Oh, but I mean it's like he can play out wide and then is capable of playing almost like an inside forward role. Then
yeah.
It's an interesting signing, really. Because when I watched a bit of the Russian league when I've been of course betting, but when I've been watching there's a lot of Swedish players in the Russian league, or at least has been, and he's been playing a bit up front for CSKA. Well, not a bit. He's been pretty much playing up front for Moscow. But now they are bringing back Carlos Strandberg, who's been at loan at the AIK. from CSKA Moscow. So, like, Musa he's a really quick, he's really, as Michael says, he's a flexible player. You can use him in lots of positions. And I think that's what Ranieri wanted. He wanted a player that can either play out wide, where, like, Okasaki's been playing up front, but he also drifts wide when he's playing with Vardy, and that's a role that Musa can really, like, fit into.
And I think Musa's, like, a better player than Okazaki. I mean, in no disrespect to Okazaki, but Musa... Like he's still only 23 moves. You got to remember that. So he's still developing, especially in his position. Like if he's been moving around positions, or whatever. So it's almost that's
what his birth certificate says. Anyway.
It's almost like an upgrade on Okazaki, just to like sort of like take that step up, just to strengthen the team really. So I can appreciate it and can probably put it down as a good sign, especially like when you said it's a bit of a signal of intent when Musa's been linked with the biggest clubs in the league, the traditional biggest clubs in the league for so many seasons now.
Yeah. Well, going from the top of the league, another signing that actually really caught my eye earlier this summer. West Ham United, they permanently signed Lanzini, which I think is a brilliant
it's
deal.
a great deal. Yeah.
And a player I really like, Feghouli, the Algerian winger from Valencia. They got him on a free transfer, and I actually think that's a brilliant signing for West Ham, personally.
If he gets adapted to Premier League, that can be probably the signing of the summer.
Yes.
Because Feghouli for Valencia he's such a solid and consistent performer for Valencia.
He's been up there in the top 5 players for the last 3 or 4 years now.
Yeah. And I can see that working out really well because West Ham are really going through, and with rumours of James Rodriguez as well, which I'm not sure
that's questionable. But we've seen Algerian players. You've got obviously Mahrez is the big one.
Boularoud.
They seem to all adapt to this league quite well, especially after that World Cup they had when they had quite a few come in. They seem to adapt to this league quite well, and if he can hit the ground running with Feghouli, you imagine him and Payet on the wings is going to be really tough for any team coming up against West Ham and looking to keep a clean sheet. Another team sort of will be hunting around those sort of top half, arguably pushing for Champions League spots. Southampton and the former Birmingham man I was going to talk about is the actual signing of Nathan Redmond, which I think is a cracking signing.
I think that's an incredible signing.
He should have been. I really like Nathan Redmond. Michael obviously really likes Nathan Redmond, and I think it's about time he got a move to an established Premier League team.
I think Southampton is such a good club for him to move to as well, because it's almost like the in-between between a huge team where he may not get opportunities, but not a Norwich where he's going to be a big fish in a small pond even at his age. It's such a good signing. He's still young and he's still improving. But he's the thing about Nathan Redmond for me, even since he was 19 years old, he was always really consistent, and there was always some sort of end product to his game. And I'd rate him so highly. His technical ability is incredible for a player of his size and stature, but yet he's so confident on the ball, doesn't overcomplicate it. He's almost I want to say a traditional winger. I think. The price, they paid 10 million for him or something, was it?
It was 11, yeah. It was
11 million. So at this day's money for a player that's 22, he's got 10 years at least left in him. And
English, of course.
And English.
Doubles the price sometimes.
So it's just I think it's such a good signing. I was so happy it was Southampton that he went to as well.
I think as well, at Norwich, I don't think he was particularly used. I don't think the style of football Norwich played particularly suited him personally. And I think now he's gone to a team like Southampton who played really good football. Obviously, we don't know what the new manager at Southampton is going to bring, but if they do keep that good, quick counter-attacking football, it's really going to suit Redmond, and I think he could really make a home there for the next few seasons. And we may see him in the World Cup squad come 2018. I wouldn't put it past him at all. I think he's probably that good.
Yeah, and also Southampton, I don't know whether you were going to bring it up later, but Southampton also signed Pierre-Emile Højbjerg.
Højbjerg, yeah. That's a really interesting signing.
Which is another really young signing. So Southampton showing some... they've obviously had success in the Premier League now for a couple of seasons with good finishers, and they're spending their money wisely on players that are maybe or coming from worse teams in the case of Redmond, or coming from a big team where he wasn't getting opportunities in Højbjerg, and they're spending it on younger players that could grow into be something special. Obviously, Bayern Munich wouldn't have picked Højbjerg up for nothing. There's got to be a reason why he was picked up by the biggest team in Germany.
Højbjerg has really impressed me every time he's been. I've seen him play for Denmark against Sweden a few times, and he's always been like the standout player in the midfield. He looks so comfortable on the ball, and just
He's a very well-rounded player for his age, and I noticed that at Schalke. He didn't particularly make a huge impact at Schalke when he was on loan, but I think that was in the way that Schalke were playing. But for a 20, I think it's really difficult to forget that he's only 20 years old, given the amount of experience he has out on loan, and like you said, so comfortable on the ball, so confident on the ball, and it's almost like in his position, that's exactly what you want. You almost want someone to control the game. And for a 20-year-old to be able to do that, it's something special. That's obviously what Bayern have spotted.
He's really well built for the Premier League as well. He's not a small guy, this guy, and he's not very weak either. He's actually like a big lad, if you could say that, who will really slot into that Wanyama role. Probably a bit more offensive, like definitely more creative than Wanyama is. And I think that Southampton got a really like big steal there.
Yeah, I think the way you speak about him is we were talking about the Xhaka signing earlier for Arsenal. It's almost like this guy would have actually been a better choice for like.
They are very similar. They're very similar, like play styles, Xhaka and Højbjerg, I would say, because he still is a creative player, playing a bit like further down the field, but yeah, deep line playmaker style, box to box, something like that.
Right, I was going to talk about Liverpool next. A signing. I don't. Who have they signed? I can't even remember. They've signed someone for quite a lot of money. Mane, sorry, completely forgot about that one. Sorry, that wasn't actually the signing I was going to talk about. I was actually going to talk about Yom Matip on a free transfer, which was secured sometime in like February or March, and obviously it's come through now. I think this is a really good signing for the fact that it's a free transfer for Liverpool.
I think it's a really clever signing.
Yeah, it's really good.
Just because of how. Like Joel Matip has always been like at Schalke, like solid centre back, reliable centre back for so many years. Like it's coming on like it must be 6 or 7 years. He's been like a reliable centre back. Well, obviously like burst into the team like 7 years ago. I don't know, but like that's why it's such a good free transfer for a player that's so established in his position and has played at a top level in like every competition imaginable. He's played alongside Benny Hervedez for many years, who's like, I know he's maybe not the best player in the world, but he's a World Cup winner, like a solid German. Like he's so experienced and whatever. It's a really clever sign. And as a Schalke fan, it's disappointing to see him go on a free transfer. And he's still young. Like he's still 24. Like even when he's been at Schalke, he's probably been in the Schalke first team genuinely for about 4 or 5 years. 4 years. I want to say. Well,
I'm going to write a note here just to never bring up Birmingham or Schalke players ever again.
Sorry,
Michael doesn't stop talking.
I can't help it.
I'm only joking. We're a podcast about talking.
I get excited.
And we're a podcast about watching.
I was the one that was saying let's keep the podcast short today because I'm really hot and I'm the one that talks the most about my things. I don't even chip in about anything else. Go back to talking about other clubs. I'll just sit back.
It's a scorcher today in sunny old England. So the other two teams we haven't spoken about. Well, first we'll mention Chelsea's other signing, Batshuayi, which we've discussed on this podcast before. The player, not necessarily the transfer. Has been linked with Spurs, West Ham as well, I think, and Everton, I think, for a little bit maybe. I can't really remember, but he's found his way to Chelsea.
He hates Tottenham.
He hates Tottenham.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I like Batshuayi very much.
I'm still unsure about the fee for starters.
This just seems like Lukaku take 2.
I wouldn't even say
to me,
that.
Personally.
I don't know. It seems like I don't know. Actually, that I think Lukaku take 2 is maybe he's a bit old.
I don't know how much Conte had in this signing. I don't particularly see Batshuayi as a striker who works very hard. Perhaps as he's quite young, he might be able to get some something out of him, like a hunger. But it just doesn't seem to fit Conte's work ethic particularly. And obviously Costa is still there. We don't know how long for now. But it looks like the way things are going, Batshuayi is going to be the main man up front for Chelsea. So what do you think of that, Elias?
Conte wants to play with two strikers. He's pretty
really?
much always
wow.
play with two strikers. So
okay.
That's probably why he's brought him in. Because if you've seen him play with Juventus, he's always like played a defensive 5-3-2 or a 3-5-2 when they're attacking. And to do that, you need two strikers. That's probably why they've signed Batshuayi. And I don't think the work ethic will be a big problem, because if they keep Costa is known to hunt down players with the ball. Pretty
not always with the ball.
No, exactly, just hunt. But yeah, and I don't think the team will suffer if he doesn't get. But Conte seems like one of these managers that will get the best out of the player. Like if they got the right mentality, if they got a will to work and a will to succeed, I think they will do well under Conte. And I keep almost saying Kante, which is a bit...
Kante and Conte.
Yeah. And I look forward to seeing how, because I watched Conte's first press conference, and he got a question about if he's going to play with one or two strikers, or no, not one or two strikers, three or four back, and he said he will think about it, and he will see what players will show, like, what they want to do, and see what the league... Like, he'll probably experiment a bit in the beginning. To see, he'll probably prepare the team for both, and do a bit of experimenting. And I would really like to see Chelsea play a two-striker formation, because it's been a while. Been a while. And... I think that's a good point with bringing... I really hope that... Because we got a few good young strikers in Dominic Solanke and Tammy Abraham, to name a few. And that will be a good way to integrate them into the team and actually give them opportunities. Because with two strikers, you don't need to bring out the main man, like the only striker if he's doing badly. You can sub one off and still have a good striker on the pitch, and then just experiment a bit with the young striker beside him and see how he does. And I think that's interesting.
The last two clubs we're going to talk about, that we haven't spoken about yet, probably the two biggest clubs in Manchester, arguably. We got Manchester United and Manchester City. I was kind of hoping one of you guys would bring these up, but you haven't yet.
I nearly did.
You nearly did.
Nearly brought up the Gundogan one, if that's what you were going to talk about.
Well, we'll go there first then. Man City signed Gundogan.
Oh, Elliot should have brought up the Zlatan one.
No.
That's almost like...
I hate him.
Isn't it Swedish folklore? Not folk?
You loved him the other week.
I loved it. I love him when he plays for Sweden. I hate him when he plays for any club team, because I don't see how you can like a player that is possibly one of your like team's enemies, if that makes sense. Like he's a national footballer for Sweden. I admire what he's done for the country, but what he does for the club he plays for, and what his arrogant just mentality and stuff like that, I don't like at all.
I don't think it'll work at Manchester United, that arrogant personality thing, because like obviously when he was at PSG and dominating the league, he was dominating the league, and he had the ability
to do that.
He had the ability to almost give himself those bragging rights, and to almost make the PSG club the Zlatan Ibrahimovic club, because of his high goal scoring record and like all these records he was breaking in France and the amazing goals he was scoring. But the Premier League is like a league that's 30 times better than the French league, so it's not going to happen for him. And
so the one argument I have with that is the fact that he's obviously worked with Ibrahimovic, that's a mouthful, before at Inter Milan with reasonable success. I think they won this league every season Mourinho was there. So I don't think the personality is particularly an issue, because obviously Mourinho knows what he's going to get with Ibrahimovic. And I don't think he'll light the league up like some people are saying, and like he did at PSG, which is good because they have young strikers there. Well, young strikers specifically Rashford, who you'd hope.
That's what I'd say. I hope Rashford does better than Zlatan.
Well, I absolutely hope anyone does better than anyone at United. Hopefully they don't score any goals. But Rashford obviously, he's had a very good breakout season with United, and hopefully he just doesn't fall off the radar because of the Ibrahimovic signing. We'll see how that unfolds. Obviously they've signed Mkhitaryan as well. Mkhitaryan, I don't really know how to pronounce it. Is it
Mkhitaryan?
MK Donsitarian. He signed.
No.
Reasonable signing, would you say? Good? Very good?
Looked good against Wigan.
I didn't see that. So
I watched
I
it
saw-
with my dad.
I saw Dortmund smash Spurs in the Europa League, and he looked very good there.
Yeah.
He looks like a really different player for United, what they've had for the last seasons. He looks like a playmaker, and he also looks like a winger. He looks like a bit of a mix of Juan Mata at his peak and Antonio Valencia. I feel like it's a really, really different player that, that United has got, and I can see him do well in the Premier League.
Yeah, he's like a complete supply machine.
Yeah.
Which is maybe complements
Worrying.
the Zlatan signing maybe too well. And it pains me obviously to talk about Dortmund players so highly, but he is a really good player. He was more than a good replacement for Goetze when he left Dortmund, so it's a good signing, and he's proven himself in, for me, what is like the second or third best league in the world. So,
and then you obviously got the Eric Barley one as well, or Bailey. I'm not really sure, but 30 million that was. I was surprised by this because I actually have never heard of him or never seen him play. So I was shocked when I saw it was 30 million. Assume he's quite good then.
He's young.
I'm kind of the same. I saw what people talking about it as if they knew loads about him on Twitter and things like that. But I didn't have a clue who he really was.
I've never seen him play.
I don't follow that league.
I knew Villarreal had a very good season, but I thought that was more because of is it Bakumbo up front and Baptistao? Leo Baptistao, yeah. So I didn't really know much about him, but there you go, 30 million for him. So we'll see what he can bring.
It's good for Villarreal.
He's very good for Villarreal.
I'm sure they snatched the opportunity of taking 30 million for a 22-year-old.
Well, anyone who can make Roberto Soldado score from open play, deserves a lot of money. Man City then. Gundogan, good signing, do we think?
Really injury prone.
Yeah.
This is my big issue with this signing.
Too injury prone. That is literally the reason. Like, people think that, he was just sort of making it in and out of the Dortmund team. Like, no. Like, his whole career has been, like, he'd probably be pretty central to Germany's midfield if he wasn't so injury prone.
I saw this. He's 25 now, 26, something like that.
Yeah, 25, I think.
Yeah, and you would think, like, if you hear Gundogan, you hear, like, I think of one of Germany's, like, best midfielders, but he's only played 12 times for Germany.
Exactly. It's because he's so inconsistent in fight for club football.
Yeah.
That they just not refuse, but he's never really considered because he doesn't play a full season ever. Like, you can never go, he's played 30 games this season and this are the stats that he's putting out. And he has had a couple of really good seasons, but like, his injuries really do plague him. And have done all the time at Dortmund. I'm not really sure when he was at like Bochum and wherever else he was, Nuremberg, like how bad his injuries were then. But it always seems to be, it's either like a knee injury or he does like get a completely different injury, which is one of the other worrying things is that there's one consistent injury and other injuries that he picks up too. It's not like there's one thing that can be solved.
Like, one more thing I think of when I hear Gundogan is it's just going to be another new resign. Like when he came to Liverpool and absolutely didn't do anything, did he?
Yeah, I was saying, I couldn't even name a game he played. Like,
the thing with Man City though is they have got the money and the squad depth to take this risk on Gundogan, and if they can somehow get him fit, he will add something to their team. The other sign I wanted to talk about from them specifically was Nolito. which for 13 million is quite cheap, but still a big risk considering he's 30
getting
now.
old.
Yeah, he's
29
getting.
or 30. Yeah.
I understand Pep Guardiola is Spanish, and he likes Spanish players,
Jesus Navas.
but I think this reminds me of the Spanish squad selection for the Euros. For some reason, it's like Nolito is sort of come out of nowhere, come back into the public eye, and I just don't think it warrants. I don't know if he's got the quality to play at a Champions League club, really.
It's probably the first season that I think that Man City are actually not signing the best players they could sign.
Yeah.
Which is worrying for them, I think.
It's strange with Pep taking over as well.
Yeah, you
Like,
would think
you'd
that
have
he would
thought
attract...
you'd have thought that he'd have just... Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, well, Pep's in charge of this team that's got unlimited money. I'd want to move there. And
The
then
thing
they signed
is,
Nolito.
though, people say they've got unlimited money. Do they really have more money than Barcelona or Bayern Munich did? This is, in my opinion, Pep's biggest challenge, and I think it's probably going to be his banana skin, and I think he's going to go down in people's opinions after this season specifically, personally. That's my opinion. Not many people agree with it. I'm just saying. So yeah, that's the teams. The stunned silence is something else. That's the big transfers that have happened so far that we've taken our huge interest. We're going to go through now every single Premier League team. We've got a few episodes before the season starts. Don't worry, we'll get through them all. We won't do them all right now. But we're going to go alphabetically. So Arsenal to Palace is today's episode. But we're just going to go through a couple of more of the big European transfers we didn't talk about. So some brief comments on these ones, chaps. Miralem Pjanic to Juventus for 25 million. Good signing.
Decent.
Yeah, good signing.
Good sign. Okay. Krychowiak to PSG. I think another.
I think that's
signing.
a great signing. Yeah.
I think he'll really excel in that league.
Yeah, do you, Michael? After you don't know what I said.
No, let's move on. We're past that segment now.
Okay, Alvaro Morata going back to Real Madrid. Words. Obviously, it looks like he's going to be sold on, so that's going to be an interesting one. Seeing where
pure
he goes.
money making scheme. Bayern just using Real Madrid just using the clause they left in the contract to make some more money.
They're a business team.
Balance the books.
Titi to Barcelona. We sort of touched on when we were speaking about France
signing.
in the Euros.
Really like that signing.
Yeah.
Probably will be brilliant at Barca.
Yeah.
A couple of others, little ones as well. Nico Gajan, who's been with Manchester United for about 10 years now. Went to Atletico Madrid for around 20 million, and Kevin Volland went to Bayer Leverkusen, another wonder kid who possibly hasn't lived up to his full potential as of yet. So we'll see how those ones play out.
Interesting ones, those ones.
So, the first five teams we're going to talk about. We're going alphabetically because it seems the most obvious way. Arsenal. We'll look at the signings they've brought in. Obviously, we spoke about Xhaka at quite some
Extent.
in quite some depth. Takuma Asano, we briefly mentioned on the last podcast.
I said no.
From a team in Japan, not 100% sure who,
Try
or even if it's from Japan. I know he's Japanese. It's Takuma Asano from Sanfrecce Hiroshima. Don't know why I whacked on a German accent or whatever that was. A couple of players they've let go. Some youngsters, Hayden and Crowley, have gone to Newcastle and Oxford respectively. Arteta, who's going to be in the coaching setup at Man City now. Rosicky
Really?
and Flannery also. Yeah, I believe that was confirmed.
I haven't heard that, actually.
Arteta
interesting.
in the backroom stuff at Man City.
John Terral.
Forgive me if that's not confirmed, but obviously Rosicky and Flamini as well leaving. Big hole in that midfield, considering the last, say, 10 years those names have been cemented in that midfield. It's interesting
Terral.
they've let them all go.
John Terral.
Who's that?
That they've let him go out on loan, and last year he lit up the championship at Birmingham City.
Wow.
Yes, I'm talking about Birmingham again.
You've literally gone from Arsenal to Birmingham. Surprised
What
you
is
It's ABC, isn't it?
surprised you haven't mentioned the Capital One Cup final, I'm not going to lie.
Baffelli.
So what do we think about those missing midfielders?
They've been good players, all of them. Once in time. Once in time, but I feel like it's a good decision to let them go because,
definitely.
of course, they're all pretty old now.
Yeah. Pretty redundant.
Mm.
Yeah,
It's like
I agree.
It's like letting Steve go from work that's worked there 50 years, but Steve's not quite got it anymore.
Steve,
so
the turtle.
it's just time for Steve to retire.
As long as you give him a cake, buy him a pint, it's all right.
Exactly.
Oh, give him a job in Man City.
Steve Flamini and...
We were going to talk about the players we think the clubs we're talking about should sign, who would improve their squad very well. Arsenal, I think we're all pretty much in agreement they should sign a striker, and I think Elias mentioned a couple of names.
Yeah, if Arsenal really want to win the Premier League for once, they need to sign a top quality striker. Oh Jesus, that like really provides goals. Like they got Giroud, he's a decent target man, but he misses way too many chances. So if they really want to win that Premier League trophy, they need to sign Higuain, they need to sign Morata, they need to sign somebody who is a prolific striker.
Goal scorer.
Exactly. Yeah. And I don't see them doing it. I just don't think that Wenger has the ability to do it.
Yeah, like Arsenal really do need a player that can play bad but still score a goal.
Yes.
Like, and like even when Arsenal are playing bad, he still has the ability to finish the odd opportunity, because Arsenal create so much that is wasted by either like doing one too many passes or just a missed opportunity from a big player, which is what Arsenal players love to do. And they just need a striker that will just change that. And I actually think they could win the league like easily. If that's made, but
yeah,
I think easily. I genuinely do.
Interesting.
With the football that they play, I think that they shore up the defence a little bit. They could, but this is just basically saying play well all the time.
Right, easily.
Well, you know what I mean.
Not after that comment, I don't. Next team we're going to talk about Bournemouth. Made a few good at Bournemouth. Made a few good signings. They've signed Nathan Ake on loan from Chelsea, Lewis Cook from Leeds, very good midfielder. Jordan Ibe from Liverpool for 50 million was a lot of money. I was interested in. That's a lot of money.
I am interested. Like that's an interesting signing for me. I don't know if Mike is laughing at that or if he's laughing at something else.
I know I'm laughing at the 15 million price tag on Jordan Ibe.
Yeah, I actually think he's not that bad. He's still young, and I think he looks to be a potential quality player for them. Because what I saw from Jordan Ibe at Liverpool, he's being used in the wrong way. Like he's a strong guy, he's a quick guy, and he's got a cracking shot on him. But I can see him do work for Bournemouth, and I think me and Phil had a discussion on Twitter the other day about if he's gonna break into that Bournemouth team with Max Gradle and Mark Pugh and players like that. And I don't see how Bournemouth can sign a player for £15 million just to put him on the bench. I don't.
Well, obviously all the transfer dealings aren't done yet, and perhaps they will be looking for an upgrade on Matt Ritchie, who they let go. Perhaps, or Jordan Ibe is that upgrade. Personally, I would be flabbergasted if they let a player like Matt Ritchie go and replaced him with Jordan Ibe. I think that is unfair, especially for more money. I cannot see how that worked. Matt Ritchie had a phenomenal season.
Yeah, I'm a bit. That's a bit worrying that they let him go.
The way I see it is, I compare it to the Lewis Cook signing. I know it's different positions, whatever, but Jordan Ibe was on loan at Championship clubs, right? Like he was on loan at Birmingham 2 years ago. Wasn't particularly impactful. Lewis Cook was not similar. Like Lewis Cook was a standout player for Leeds. Is a year younger, and they paid £10 million less. Like just because Jordan Ibe's at Liverpool, it doesn't mean that he's an incredible player. He may well be Championship quality. And like that's the way I kind of see it. I don't mean it's a bad signing, but I think 15 million is a pretty ridiculous price tag for a player that hasn't particularly proven himself, even at Championship level yet.
Interesting. A couple of other players have signed.
But I think Bournemouth have overall done business really well. Not necessarily in replacing Matt Ritchie, but they've signed another French kid as well. I think they've signed like 3 or 4 players that are under 21 years old. So it's a good way. It's a good way for the club to move forward, and the money that they've received, they've then gone and used that on something for the future. If they can just stay in the Premier League, it'll be good for them in years to come.
All right. Yeah. A couple of other players then we missed out. Lise Musset of Le Havre signed for 5.4 million. Don't know much about him.
That's the one.
Emerson Hindman from Fulham as well. Another under $1 million that cost. I don't know much about him either. They let go Sylvain Distin on a 3.
I think that's a good piece of business right there.
A big sign. They let Tommy Elphick go, who I thought
To
to Aston Villa for 3.6 million. So they're a defender light. They've let Fatboy Lee Tomlin go. Glenn Murray's gone on loan to Brighton. Stefan Zubar as well. There's a couple of names there, and of course Matt Ritchie to Newcastle. Bournemouth are going to make more signings. They've already made 5. It's going to be interesting to see how Bournemouth do, especially with is it Calvin Wilson? Calvin Wilson? I can never remember how to. Callum Wilson. I can never remember that. But yeah, we'll see how well he does coming back from that horrific injury he suffered last season, and see if he can actually hit the ground running like he seemed to at the start of last season.
And also Benicophobe, if they can get him.
Oh, of course, Benicophobe as well. So they've got some good players there, and Josh King as well on the winger. They've got goal scorers there. We'll see what they can do to bring out the best in their goal scoring forwards.
Just a quick question. Do you think that Bournemouth fans would be happy to have a similar season this season as to what they did last year, where they sort of impress really early, have a few good results in the middle, like a really good run in the middle, and then drift off towards the end because of injuries, and sort of just be safe from relegation?
I think if the question of them being relegated never enters their mind, like it pretty much didn't this season, I think they'll be happy with that. I think bottom half, they'll take anything above 15th. They'll take right now. I think personally,
any Premier League team that's been newly promoted, I think will take a bottom like 14 and like just within the bottom half of the table for a few seasons just to get settled, and then just build from that. And eventually just go up. It was really a once in a lifetime with Leicester, of course. But like I can see them being happy with a like a 10th, maybe from 10 to 15
10th,
now.
I think they'd be delighted with 10th place.
Yeah.
They're fantastic season for them. Burnley then next, newly promoted. Not really much to talk about here. They signed Jamie Thomas from Bolton, Robbie Litch from Motherwell for free. Don't know much about those two players. The only big one I can see here in their leaving, in their outs, is Joey Barton left. Huge.
Went to Rangers, didn't he?
He went to Rangers for a free like Matt Gilks as well. I think this all stems down to the fact they didn't get a medal when they won the championship. This is disappointing for him. But no, I think he had a very good season in the championship last season for Burnley. I think it's kind of unfortunate that he actually left. I would have liked to see him back in the Premier League, but
yeah, I'd love to see him.
Rangers are a big
he's
club.
a character, it really is, and I think that he really is something that, like, imagine Joey Barton against Latin again, like it was when Joey Barton was in Marseille. I would love that.
The big nose thing.
Yes, big nose.
But no, it's definitely a player they're going to need to replace. I've got a name down here. Joe Ledley, I think, is the perfect replacement. I've seen that linked in. I don't know how legitimate the link was. It might have just been a bit bullshit because Joe Ledley had a great Euros, and if Crystal Palace for some reason let him go because Pardew's a bit mental, that would be perfect for Burnley. But also another one here, I got Nabil Bentaleb from Spurs to go on perhaps on something like a loan deal. I think would be another good sign. But they need to fill that Joey Barton position, not just with ability and that position, but they need to fill it with experience.
Yeah, so much
leader.
more than Joey Barton.
John Obi Mikel, I can see that happening.
Oh, that thing is, I actually can see it happening.
Yeah, I can see that.
I genuinely can see that being a thing.
That's actually a good suggestion. Although I think that Burnley would be very disappointed with that signing.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Established Premier League player. 10 years.
To some.
10 years at Chelsea. Somehow.
Before we let this podcast go out of control, let's move on to Chelsea. And we won't talk about the ends so much because we've already pretty much covered Batshuayi and Kante. We spoke earlier about how we think there's going to be a huge overhaul at Chelsea. What do you think the players they would be looking to bring in? I think probably a defender is the most important defender, at this point. You got any names? Any names for us?
I really like the looks of Bonucci, but I don't think it's going to happen. But it's I don't know actually, because Benatia, he went from Roma to from Bayern to Juventus.
Yeah.
The difference is Benatia wasn't particularly getting played.
Yeah, he was injured a lot as well.
Yeah, but I really
he's pretty injury prone.
I really like the looks of Bonucci, but I don't see any really quality centre backs being able to make any massive transfers this window.
Could have had Balanta. Balanta just went to Basel recently.
Is he massive though?
I don't know whether you class that as like a
Football Manager wonder kid.
Yeah, exactly. So he was available.
Another player Chelsea missed out on is James Tompkins.
Oh God!
You know, would have been good. That was. Can I have this as my Crystal Palace link, or do you want to talk about Chelsea's outs?
Well, I want Matic to leave. That's all.
Okay, disgraceful.
Yes.
Not too many names we know from the Chelsea outs. Pretty much all on loan. So yeah, going back to the Tompkins segue. Wait, what?
Salah. I was just saying Salah would move, didn't he?
I don't know. I thought he moved
on a permanent.
January. Well, it was in January, wasn't it?
Oh, was it? Okay, carry on. I thought he was still on loan, but carry on.
This swag.
Oh, a Quadrado coming in again after loan. It's Juventus.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah, because Conte, I think that's a player that Conte can use.
Play him out wide.
Yeah,
in a work hard position. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm going to call those wing back positions. The work hard positions. So on to Palace then, as that segue has been dying to just work. They brought in some interesting players. So kind of random their signings actually. Andros Townsend from Newcastle.
I need to link you an Instagram picture of him. Besides, I think it's I don't know who it is actually. I can't remember. But
we'll
he
put
looks
that in the description
massive.
for you. We'll put that in the description for you.
Yes,
listeners.
He looks massive. He looks like Hulk. I don't know what he's been doing.
Best not to ask.
Yeah.
James Tompkins from West Ham. Again, James Tompkins, has he been? I didn't even think he was getting in the West Ham starting 11.
He played for West Ham quite a bit.
I thought they were playing
out wide, and then he
played.
played.
Loved him.
Yeah, and he played at centre back quite a lot.
When they playing Bonner and the
Bonner, I don't think Bonner
played.
I don't think Bonner played that much.
Neither do I.
Yeah.
Well, an interesting signing from Palace, and Mandanda from Marseille. We know.
I think that's a decent signing.
Yeah, they have Hennessy, they have Alex McCarthy, and I think they still have probably Speroni on their books.
Oh, no, Adrian. Jeez, I'm talking West.
Well, but yeah, Palace keeper. I suppose if they want to go to the next level, they perhaps need to strengthen their goalkeeper. But is Mandanda the keeper to do that? I don't know. I guess we'll see.
He's experienced.
Yeah, well, he's experienced. Yeah, I suppose. But it's whether you want that at a team like Crystal Palace, because obviously Wayne Hennessy's experienced to a point.
That's
and
true.
then you've got Alex McCarthy, who's young. That'll be Hennessy and McCarthy aren't exactly old, but perhaps something to build on there with goalkeepers. I was going to go through their outs now. Dwight Gale to Newcastle,
10 million.
Is a fee.
I hate. Sorry, I have to point. Like supporting Championship team, I hate like fees that high being tossed around in the Championship. I know it's Newcastle still, but
yeah, it'll be interesting if they don't win that league. What happens to if they go up and don't win that league? It'll be interesting what happens to Benitez, I think. But yeah. So apart from that one, they've got a couple of outs on frees. Adebayor's left, so the experiment didn't really work there. Shamak, Hangeland, Mariappa, a couple of names we know. Palace, what do you think about Palace and where do they need to improve? Because I think personally they probably need a striker.
Need a striker and they need somebody at the back, a centre back. So like Damien Delaney is not Premier League standard. I can see Scott Dan doing well if he just gets a bit.
But now they have James Tompkins. Surely that search is over.
Yeah.
Scott Dan and James Tompkins is just going to be the dream partnership. It almost says I have visions of Roger Johnson, Scott Dan in my head now, and I can see it being a similar thing. So for me, that's done deal.
Oh wow, interesting. A player I had in the striker argument, I had Mitrovic of Newcastle, but I think he might be hard to pull away. But an interesting one I thought for Palace, they obviously had Patrick Bamford on loan last season. Was it last season they had him on loan for the start and it didn't particularly work very well?
Yeah,
I think if they could get perhaps Marcus Rashford on loan, I think that'd be a very, very good signing. I think a bit of money would have to go there. They'd have to pretty much guarantee him playing time. And I'm not sure how Mourinho is going to see Rashford, whether he's going to see him as a serious first team player. So I think a loan move perhaps for Rashford for Palace would be a very, very good signing. But we'll see how that goes. So that's the first 5 teams talked about. We talked about all the teams we're going to talk about. We'll end you with a couple of rumours we've seen that we like. Have you seen any transfer rumours that have interested you, gentlemen?
as I mentioned before, James Rodriguez to West Ham is probably the best transfer rumor thus far. I can see him leaving, but to West Ham,
It's a bit out there.
yeah, I think he'll go to PSG or something like that. He won't downgrade that much.
Oh wow, downgrade.
You
Leroy
can't
Sané to
say.
Man City?
West Ham fans would say that West Ham and Real Madrid are on an even kill. Don't even pretend they wouldn't.
Hello, Sam.
I
FP
feel there's a little bit of
345.
Tottenham bias. I feel there's some Tottenham bias coming in there. Phil,
What, from
say
the
that
Chelsea fan? Hey, he agreed.
Anyway, Leroy Sané to Man City. Gonna get the personal.
That's
ones
been
in.
going for ages, that one.
Thing is, though, that it's been reported in Germany that he has agreed personal terms with Man City, because usually clubs, for big moves in Germany, they give permission for players to agree a contract, and then the clubs agree a transfer fee afterwards. So supposedly, the stage of the transfer is they're agreeing a transfer fee.
Right.
Whether it goes through or not,
The personal terms
isn't.
could all be done, though.
The personal terms are supposedly done. That's how it's been reported in Germany by Bild and other large newspapers. But yeah, I think that's a good sign for City.
Well, we're hearing Berahino to Stoke is on. Apparently, 20 million's been offered. Bacca to West Ham is on and off. I think it's probably better for West Ham that that's off, because I don't think Bacca is perhaps good enough for the Premier League. And one that's really caught my eye is Mahrez to Arsenal for a reported £45 million. I mean, if you can't get Vardy, go to the next one. I mean,
That's profit.
yeah, that'd be interesting if that one happened, though. I'd like to see how Mahrez did cope at Arsenal. I imagine he'd play well, but it just seems pointless to go from Leicester to Arsenal at this point.
Yeah, what a downgrade.
Let's give it a season.
Well, he's got Champions League football next season. I'm not 100% sure anyone's going to be calling Arsenal title contenders in the same breath as Leicester. Like, I don't think anyone's particularly seeing Leicester as title contenders next season, even though they are the holders, or Arsenal. So I think maybe next season, if Leicester don't finish in the top four, it's going to be so interesting to see how Leicester do this season. It really is, and we'll talk about them later. Not later, but in a future episode when we get to them in the talky bouty section. So that'll be interesting when we talk about them. But I think we should probably end this now because we've gone on for way longer than we decided we would.
Yeah,
This was not
I feel I've
planned.
somewhat contributed.
This was meant to be
my
a half an
person-
hour to 45-minute episode. We're currently coming up to the hour mark.
I have lost 10 kilograms of sweat.
Yeah, but I think I've sweated out at least a litre, and it's just sat below me at the moment. I waited to mop it up when the podcast's finished.
Okay, well that's
How disgusting.
That's
is that
lovely.
for you?
That's lovely.
Knee
So,
sweat.
so I guess we should say goodbye.
Yeah.
Say goodbye,
Goodbye from
gentlemen.
him.
You can say goodbye quickly so we can go and drink water. That's it. Bye.
Parched.
Yeah. So goodbye from these guys. Goodbye from me. I'm off to play Pokemon Go. I'll see you all later. Goodbye.
Pokemon. Oh.